All right, guys, so really quickly, I want to go through intercept form, which is the last form that we're learning about. We've learned standard, we've learned vertex, and now we're going to learn this factored form, or also called intercept form. So here it is right here. We still have that leading coefficient a, and then x minus p and x minus q. What do these represent? These are new variables. These represent the x-intercepts, you guys. And I want us to think about why. I want us to think about the why it means that it'll be our x-intercepts. Let's look at this problem right here. What happens if I actually plug in 1, right? Notice it's x minus p, so the p-value is 1. What happens if I plug in a 1 right here? I'd get 1 minus 1, so negative 1 times 0 times, 1 plus 5 is 6, but it doesn't really matter that 1 plus 5 is 6 because 0 times anything is 0. So I get a y of 0. And what does it mean? If we have a y of 0, it means that we're on the x-axis. We are an x-intercept. Okay? So this is why this works, is that anything that I plug in here that allows me to cancel what I'm dealing with here, right, the 9. So if I plugged in a negative 9 here, guarantees everything's a 0 from there. Guarantees everything's a 0. All right. So from here we need to think about how can we actually find the axis of symmetry. Like if I gave you an XY chart, an XY axis like this, and I told you that you had a point right here at negative 4, 0, and that you also had a point right here at negative 2, 0, we would know that our parabola passes through these points. Maybe it's going concave up like this, maybe it's going concave down like this, but I know it passes through here. And because these are mirrored points, what that means is that the space between these 1, 2 units needs to be split down the middle by the axis of symmetry. If it's not being split down the middle like this, then I can't say that it's an actual parabola, right? Because it is a parabola, I know that has to be true. So there's got to be a mathematical way for me to actually find this, and it's kind of related to the midpoint formula, going all the way back to geometry, you guys. Right, think about it. You're looking for, the midpoint would be on this line. The vertex might not be the midpoint, but I just need the x value, right? X equals something, right, for a vertical line. I just need the x value of this midpoint right here. So what I'm going to do is just add the p and q value and divide by 2. So adding negative 4 plus negative 2 dividing by 2, negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Let's think about it. Does it make sense for this to be negative 3? Yeah, because that would be a distance of 1 and a distance of 1. Best thing for me to do before I end this video would just be to walk through a practice problem with you guys so that I could say something like, what would I have to plug in here to make this a 0? 1. What would I have to plug in here to make this a 0? Negative 3. And just like that, I've got 2 mirrored points perfectly. So the next thing I need to do is say, well, what's in between those? What's in between these? Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Divided by 2 is negative 1. Let's look. Does this make sense as an axis of symmetry? It sure does. And now it's my job to find the vertex so I can really finish strong here. Okay? To find the vertex, why don't we do what we've been doing all the way back in standard form, which is take this value and plug it in back here. Right? That's the best thing for me to do. So what happens when I do -1 minus 1 times -1 plus 3? So -2 times 2, that's -4. So I can say that on this line, if I go down to -4, there's my vertex. And now let me flesh this out by either figuring out what happens at -2 or at 0. I'm going to go with 0 just because I kind of feel like that won't be too bad for me to solve, right? Doing like 0 minus 1 times 0 plus 3. So that's -1 times 3, -3. And just like my x-intercepts are perfectly mirrored, well, that point's going to be mirrored as well. And now I'm good to complete my parabola. So that right there is graphing with intercept form. And just like that, we've learned all three forms. So it's almost going to be time for us to do some sort of assessment. Okay. For your homework to go along with this assignment, I believe I put together some notes for you guys to look at, right? Like a graphic organizer to guide you. And on that graphic organizer, there's a couple practice problems. I think there's 3 for you to do. Treat them as homework and use this as a guide for how to piece this together. All right.